The residents of East Herts have been fighting the development in North Harlow for nearly 20 years. We fought the developers off a number of times, both in the 90s and in the early 2000s. And we actually won the arguments at the examination in public in 2006, when everybody had the opportunity to argue their case in front of an independent planning inspector. The planning inspector's report was very clear that Harlow North should not go ahead, and it would actually damage the regeneration of Harlow itself, which should be the focus of everyone's attention. Harlow, we believe, should be better but not bigger, and the rural countryside of East Herts is worth protecting.
My name is Angela Alder, and I've lived in this area for nearly 50 years, and I care passionately about the countryside. Our children were born here, they grew up here, our grandchildren grew up here, and now our great-grandchildren are growing up here. I want this area preserved for them and for their children, that we continue to fight for the small villages, for the people, the smaller people who will be very much affected by this huge development, which we very much hope will never ever come to pass. We want to see it put to bed, absolutely eliminated from any planning cycle forever.
I've lived in Sawbridgeworth for 22 years, and what I like about this part of East Hertfordshire is its unique nature. I think that there are many villages and towns in the area that have a distinct character. There's a great community spirit in them, and it's something I'd like to preserve. I'm not against housing development. I understand the need for phased development of housing according to needs, but it has to be where it's wanted, where it's needed. The problem I have with a major development at Harlow North is really that it isn't part of Harlow. I don't think it will help any regeneration of Harlow. It will destroy a large amount of the Greenbelt area in the countryside. I don't believe it's sustainable. The infrastructure isn't there, and it's mainly being done for economic reasons on behalf of the developers. And I also believe that they've been very misleading in the way that they've undertaken their campaign over the last couple of years, leading the public to believe that it's a done deal and that all it's about is planning what's needed within that area. I believe we can do a lot better than that. I believe there are plans to improve the area, particularly the plans that people have put forward for Gilston Great Park. And if this is done properly, I believe that we can sustain the character of the area and still provide the housing that people need.
Hello, I'm Alan Jenkins. I'm from Gilston. I moved into the area about 7 years ago. I think what I love about the area, it's very open, very accessible. It's like a back garden, really, for the surrounding community. I love the wildlife. We have barn owls, tawny owls, little owls, buzzards, swans, herons, snakes, toads, frogs, all absolutely wonderful wildlife. And the people of the community, not just the community of Gilston, but the whole area, we can all use that facility. It's been there for thousands of years, and it should be able to stay that way. The people of Eastwick and Gilston, we have a parish plan, and we very much support the environment. And we really want some limited housing development. And we've put forward proposals for Gilston Great Park that will preserve the accessibility, the environment, and help the community to grow. The other thing I'd like to say is that we're a little community, volunteers, working parish plans, parish councils, and what we do is we put forward plans. We're having to fight against these big guys. They're spending millions, and all we can do is object. The people of the community think they've objected. They think they've stated what they want. Yet for, I believe, 20 years, we keep getting harassed by developers, and it just has to stop. Thank you.
I'm Mark Brisk, and I'm a Member of Parliament for Hertford and Bishopstorp. We feel that the Hertfordshire, as the most densely populated county in England, actually needs to be able to decide what is developed in its area and where. You'll find that many of the villages would recognise that in their area it might help to have half a dozen homes in one location or maybe a dozen in another. But what we don't want to see is a new town. And actually I'd say that it's bad for Harlow, because if you build a new town on the greenfields north of that town in Hertfordshire, because the area we're talking about isn't in Essex, it's in Hertfordshire, then what that will do is destroy the opportunity for renewing Harlow, which is a new town of over 40 years of age and which everyone recognises needs further regeneration. Well, we've argued that you've got to make sure that when you develop new housing, it relates to the area, and that what will happen then is that the communities will know what kind of scale of development is feasible. But it's quite right to say that what you've got to make sure is that you marry the new development with the capability of the infrastructure. One of the fundamental things that came out of the planning inquiry that came out against Harlow North was that, in fact, when you talk to the water and the sewerage experts, they all made it clear it was not feasible to be able to allow Harlow North to progress, because there simply isn't the capacity to be able to deal with that. So even on the basics, like water and sewerage, the scale of development like Harlow North is completely unsustainable. Well, if it were to progress, and I'm confident that if we can change the law, we should be able to stop that sort of mass urban development. But if it were to go ahead, what we would lose would be the quality of the environment. We would lose the woodlands. The individual character of those communities would be destroyed. They would become part of a town. If you can imagine you're living in a village and suddenly you haven't moved home, but you've now been moved to a large urban town, it completely shatters the way in which that community works. And I think it would destroy, what we have. So I feel very strongly that we have something that's very precious. It's something that's there not just for our generation, but for the generations to come. And I think it would be wrong for it to progress. I think we can beat it. We've nearly got there. We've got another year in which we can make sure that the clear view of the local people is to say no to Harlow North. We express that in the consultation to East Herts. The government then changes the planning regulations, and we can start to move forward and remove this potential blight from our landscape.
The other concerns we have are very much about the infrastructure and the cost of this development. You can see the traffic congestion every morning going into Harlow, and there are no plans yet to do anything about that. All the discussion about a bypass has led to nothing. A bypass would in fact cost hundreds of millions of pounds, and as we all know, the government has run out of our money at the moment. So we're worried about traffic congestion. We're also worried about water and sewage. There have been some studies of the Rymead sewage works and how it might cope, but we're very worried about the damage that might be done to the SSI and the Lee Valley from the massive house building and the demands it will put on the sewage treatment works. Hunsdon is a tight-knit community. Everybody knows everybody else. We don't want to become part of the urban sprawl of London, an anonymous dormitory town. This would destroy our community as we know it today, where we have so much community spirit, so much cooperation between individuals, and so much identity with the place we live. Harlow North would turn the area into an anonymous urban sprawl, spreading out from London, consuming the countryside and the wildlife to the benefit of no one.
The parish of Much Haddam is nearly 3,000 people. We have one major road, which is a B road. It currently has 4,500 cars a day using it. We see Harlow North bringing in excess of 12,000 cars a day using it. We see no benefits to Harlow North as a community. We have Bishop Stortford to our east, Stevenage to our west, Harlow to our south. Are we to be the last village remaining in East Hertfordshire?